the station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
All right, thank you for joining us here on DC News Now. I'm Shanika Grimshaw. We'll get a look at your top stories in just a bit, but first we want to talk to meteorologist Jackie Layer with a quick check on the forecast. Jackie, we are expecting some rain and some clouds.
Yeah, certainly we'll see the cloud cover for much of the day today. Any rain chances really hold off till later this evening. I would think closer to or even after sunset will be the best chance for a few of those showers to slide on through. And speaking of planning out the rest of your day today, here's a view of what you can expect. Temperatures middle 60s by noon. We're talking middle 70s by 4 p.m. That's really around those high temperatures for today. Sunset will be at 7:51. So like I mentioned, looks like any rain chances really hold off till after that, especially for DC and areas eastward. Farther off towards the north and west could see a few of those showers as early as 5 p.m. this evening. So today we're looking at those highs, middle 70s. Tomorrow, though, for your Earth Day, as we'll see more of that sunshine emerging later on, highs will top out right around 80. Then we're talking upper 70s under mainly sun-filled skies on Wednesday. Looking really nice that day. More details. Look at that 7-day forecast coming up.
All right, Jackie, thank you. Breaking news this morning, the Vatican announcing Pope Francis has died. In a statement, it says this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the home of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and his church. Pope Francis has faced several complications with health over the last several months, including an extended stay in the ICU while battling pneumonia. He was 88 years old. And developing now, 2 Prince George's County police officers are on administrative leave after they shot and killed a man accused of stabbing 2 people before setting their apartment on fire. That was on Sunday morning. Officers responded to reports of 2 people stabbed at the River Point Apartments in Fort Washington at around 10 a.m. Officers responded to St. George Boulevard near Fleet Street in National Harbor. The suspect began heading toward one of the 2 officers, and the officers fired their guns, killing the suspect.
It's an unfortunate incident on a beautiful Sunday, on a special Sunday across the world, and it happened right here in the beautiful National Harbor as these things happen.
The 2 officers involved have been placed on administrative leave pending the results of the investigation. Also developing, a man is dead after a shooting in Alexandria. It happened around 10 o'clock Saturday night on Canterbury Square. Police say he died at the scene and they have not made any arrests. If you have any information, you're asked to contact police. And Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen returning from El Salvador after meeting with Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Van Hollen says Abrego Garcia was moved from the notorious prison CCOT to a detention center with better conditions. The case is the latest in the country's immigration debate. In court, federal officials say Abrego Garcia's deportation was a mistake, but the White House still claims Abrego Garcia is an MS-13 gang member, despite the fact that he has not been charged with any gang-related crime. But Van Hollen says the case is about more than Abrego Garcia's immigration status.
I'm not vouching for the man. I'm vouching for the man's rights. His constitutional rights to due process. And the proper place to litigate that is in the courts.
More Democrats say they'll also fly to El Salvador to push for Abrego Garcia's release, but the Trump administration still pushing back. And over to the Supreme Court, they're blocking the Trump administration's use of an 18th century wartime law as a justification for deportations. The court acting on an emergency appeal from the ACLU. They ruled 7-2 with Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito dissenting. The law has only been used 3 times in U.S. history, most recently during World War II, to hold Japanese American citizens in internment camps. The Trump administration has appealed the ruling, saying they are confident they will prevail against meritless litigation brought by radical advocates. And there are more than 3,100 teacher openings in Virginia, and more school districts are relying on substitutes. But current laws do not require much training. Would-be teachers just need an orientation on the policies and procedures for the school they'll be working in. Now there's a company hoping to standardize things a bit more and offering new online training programs to help prepare subs.
Substitute teachers cover classrooms for weeks, for months, and if not, the entire school year. And especially in those cases, it's really critical that they're not just rolling in that movie cart and making sure that the students are behaving and staying in the classroom. They've got to advance learning while that teacher is out.
Now, these programs will focus on classroom management and executing a plan, also understanding how students learn. And staying in Virginia, health officials confirmed the first 2025 measles case in the state. The Virginia Department of Health says the patient is a child between the ages of 0 and 4 from the Northwest region. They say the child recently traveled internationally. Officials say they're coordinating efforts to identify anyone who may have been exposed. Now, the exposure sites include the Kaiser Permanente Caton Hill Medical Center in Woodbridge. They say a potential risk of exposure was between 10 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. That was this past Tuesday. And the Kaiser Permanente Fredericksburg Medical Center, that risk of exposure there was between noon and 5 this past Wednesday. And across the country, there are now 800 people with the measles, and with Texas driving the spike in infections, the CDC says 600 patients are in the Lone Star State. And it's also where 2 children who were not vaccinated have died. Maryland has 3 people with the measles, and D.C. is dealing with its second case of someone with the disease visiting the district. The latest case was at a Five Guys in Northwest on April 5th. And the Supreme Court is set to hear arguments in a Montgomery County case. That's tomorrow. The core of the case, whether to allow parents to opt their kids out of lessons that use books with LGBTQ characters. At issue are 5 books in the curriculum aimed for K through 5 readers, including Prince and Knight, which has 2 men fall in love. A group of parents argue the books don't align with their religion, and they want an option to opt out of the lessons, but MCPS has refused, and so far, lower courts have agreed with the district.
They're not comfortable having their children exposed to these things at such an early age. I mean, we're talking about pre-K and elementary school kids. These are not adults or young children in their youth who are matured enough that the parents have agreed to put in these classes.
In court papers, lawyers for the school says the books are not sex education material, but tells everyday tales of characters who experience adventure, confront new emotions, and struggle to make themselves heard. DC News Now is your local election headquarters, and looking ahead, voters in the Commonwealth are just weeks away from early voting in multiple primary elections. On the Democratic side, there will be a primary for Lieutenant Governor and Attorney General. And for the Republicans, there will be a Lieutenant Governor primary. Early voting starts May 2nd, and Election Day will be Tuesday, June 17th. And a Metro bus route in Northern Virginia is now closed, shutting down permanently this weekend. WMATA says this is for the 10A route. It's stopping service to the southbound bus stop on South Eads and 23rd Street South. It's where they'll be putting up some road safety hardware. Starting today, you'll need to find an alternative southbound bus stop. And staying on Metro, the blue and green lines will see construction work this summer, and that's from July 5th through the 26th. There'll be track work done on the southern end of the blue line, meaning no service between Franconia, Springfield, and DCA. And then between August 2nd and the 31st, work will be done on the southern end of the green line, and there will be no service between Southern Avenue and Branch Avenue. Turning things now over to a meteorologist, Jackie Layer, with a check on how it's going to feel today.
Yeah, I mean, out there later on this afternoon, we're going to be tracking those high temperatures back into those middle 70s. I know we had a warm weekend and especially a nice day out there yesterday for Easter. But what else are we tracking here in the Weather Center? Well, as we look towards later on today, count that chance for a couple of those showers pushing through as we do have a cold front swinging through. Now we'll see decreasing cloud cover out there tomorrow. So meaning starting off with some clouds in the morning, then more of that sunshine emerging later in the day for your Earth Day plans. It'll be sun-filled and 70s for the middle of the week, and then rain chances will be returning later this week. Likely much of Friday tracking some scattered showers. And speaking of some rain, we could be dealing with that later on today, especially for our westernmost areas by about the evening time frame. We do this warm front lifting in, and those winds will eventually shift from out of the southeast to eventually out of the south later on this evening. By 8 p.m., that's when we could see some some shower activity farther off towards the north and west. Closer towards D.C., could we see that shower chance? That'll be later on tonight, especially after sunset this evening. Then early tomorrow morning, could see that chance for a couple of lingering showers from that cold front before eventually that slides out, and we'll see decreasing cloud cover in the wake of that cold front. And high temperatures tomorrow, though, in the wake of the cold front will actually be a little bit warmer than the day today, really all thanks to that sunshine. So highs tomorrow for your Earth Day right around 80 degrees. We do start off with those temperatures, though, already into those middle 60s. So a relatively mild start tomorrow morning. And then as we look ahead towards your Wednesday, upper 70s, mainly sun-filled skies. Wednesday looking really nice out there in terms of those high temperatures, and also with the sunshine too. However, not ideal the next few days for any of those allergy sufferers this time of the year. We're looking at extreme pollen count not only today but also through Thursday. I'm thinking towards Friday, though, with more of that wet weather on the way, that pollen count will start to lower a little bit at least, so that rain should flush things out a little bit. Some of the showers could linger into early Saturday as well. This is a view of Thursday night, 9 p.m. Some showers back out towards our westernmost areas, and this will continue to lift away north and east. Still looking at some of those shower chances through Friday afternoon and evening. And like I mentioned, some of those could linger into Saturday as well. Here's the rest of that 7-day outlook. Much of that 7-day, we are well above normal for this time of the year. Typically, we should be into those lower 70s. We'll see that returning for the second half of this upcoming weekend. But as we look towards the weekend, though, some lingering showers in the morning, but then we should dry things out. And then just a touch cooler for the second half of the weekend, but right around normal under a mix of sun and clouds.
All right, looking good, Jackie. Thank you. All right, in the district, a new beginning for ex-inmates. There are several programs setting them up for success, including clothing, and that's where people donate gently used professional clothes, and this will give them a chance to prepare for a return to the job market. And there was also a roundtable to help people with the transition from incarceration back to society.
It's an opportunity to alleviate strain on individuals that just came home and alleviate strain on their family. The more that we can help them to be connected, to get the things that they need, increases public safety, reduces recidivism.
Now, there are more events coming up, including an expo next Wednesday to help people get vital resources like job training and treatment programs. All right, Trader Joe's fans, you'll soon have more stores to shop at in the district. The chain is opening 21 new stores across the country, with 3 in the DMV. There are some in the district, and that's Wisconsin Avenue Northwest near Tenleytown and Monroe Street in Northeast. And in Maryland, Rockville is getting a Trader Joe's on North Washington Street, but we don't have dates just yet. The chain says 10 stores are set to open by the end of the year. All right, happening today, we're going to take a live look right now at the White House this morning, where an annual Easter tradition is happening. Children and families from across the country will be out on the South Lawn for the annual Easter egg roll. And the White House Easter festivities started in 1878, but the egg rolling parties started under President Lincoln. The guests are children and families picked from a lottery. And turning now to the Washington Caps, they're getting ready for the NHL playoffs. But before tonight's first round game, they got a chance to spend some time on the ice with their families ahead of practice. Capitals captain Alex Ovechkin shared the ice with his 2 sons, and other Washington Capitals like John Carlson, Nick Dowd, Tim Wilson, and more had their children on the ice with them as well. Players say when they have the opportunity to spend time with their families on the ice, they take advantage.
Being Easter Sunday, it's an important holiday for a lot of young families, and us having practice today felt like it was a good time to be able to get everybody to the rink post-practice and enjoy some time together.
And this is such a nice way for the team to relax as they gear up for the playoffs. And speaking of the playoffs, game 1 in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs will be tonight at 7. The Caps will host the first 2 games of the 7-game series against the Canadiens. So be sure to keep it locked here on DC News Now. We're going to have a complete coverage. We're going to have a lot of coverage all day, and that is starting at 4 p.m. You don't want to miss it. And that's all the time we have this morning for you on DC News Now. Stick around for more news and weather. That's coming up at the news at noon.